There is a line on Sam Roloff's own website that does more work than any biography could. He learned to dance, he says, not with his body, but with a brush. Sam has diastrophic dysplasia. He walks with crutches. Dancing, in the ordinary sense, was never on offer. So he found a different way to move, and he has been doing it professionally for over 30 years. Most people watching Little People Big World have no idea he exists as anything other than an occasional face at a family gathering. He is Matt's younger brother. That is the extent of what the show ever established about him across 25 seasons. The reality is a serious fine artist with graduate-level training, work in galleries, collectors who pay 4 figures for a canvas, and a body of paintings built across 3 decades and 2 continents. Take the family first because the arithmetic is striking. Ron and Peggy Roloff had 4 children in the San Francisco Bay Area. Sam describes himself as a third-generation San Franciscan, so the roots run back further than that. Ruth came first and is of average height. Matt second, born October 7, 1961, with diastrophic dysplasia. Joshua third, born with a severe heart malformation that killed him in 1999 at 34. Sam fourth, also with diastrophic dysplasia. 2 of the 4 children carried the same rare skeletal condition. A third was born with a cardiac defect that would kill him before 35. 1 daughter developed typically. Whatever Ron and Peggy were doing in that house through the 1960s and 70s, it was not ordinary parenting, and there was no manual for any of it. Matt and Sam grew up as the 2 brothers who walked the same way. Both under 5 feet, both on crutches, both navigating a house, a school, and a world scaled for somebody else, with the specific advantage that neither of them was doing it alone. That is a rare thing. Most children with dwarfism grow up as the only one in the family. These 2 had each other in the next room. There is a second thing that shared condition would have given them, and it is less comfortable. 2 brothers on crutches in the same household means 2 sets of surgeries, 2 sets of hospital admissions, 2 children in recovery, sometimes overlapping. Matt has spoken about roughly 700 days of his childhood spent in hospital beds. Sam's medical history is not public in the same detail, but diastrophic dysplasia does not skip the orthopedic interventions for anybody. Whatever the household finances looked like on a marine mechanic's civilian salary, a substantial portion of it went to correcting 2 boys' skeletons across 2 decades. And then, as adults, they went in opposite directions. While Matt was building a computer career, Sam went to the San Francisco Art Institute. That is not a soft option. SFAI was one of the most significant fine art schools in the American West, with an alumni list running through generations of consequential painters and photographers. Sam graduated with honors in 1992, the same year Matt was 30 and building a sales career 400 miles north in Oregon. Honors from a competitive art school is a real distinction. It means the faculty judged his technical command and his creative direction against a cohort of people who had all been the best artist in their own high school and rated him at the top. Most graduates in that position do the sensible thing next. They stay in the city, find studio space, work a job, start showing in small galleries, and grind out a reputation. Art school also did something else for him that is easy to overlook. It put him in a room where he was assessed entirely on what came off the end of a brush. That is a rarer experience than it sounds for somebody with a visible difference. Most environments evaluate a person partly on presence, on how they occupy a room, on assumptions made before anybody has spoken. A studio critique does not work that way. The work goes on the wall, and the work is what gets argued about. For a young man who had spent 20 years being read on site, a discipline that judged him by his output alone would have been enormously appealing. Sam went to Mexico and Guatemala, hitchhiking. Sit with what that involved. A young man with diastrophic dysplasia, on crutches in the early 1990s, standing at the roadside in Central America getting into strangers' vehicles. Every consideration argues against it. The physical difficulty, the languages, the safety, the absolute absence of accessible infrastructure, the medical exposure of being a long way from anyone who understands your skeleton. He went anyway, and his own account of it describes what he was after. The bold characters and the rich cultures that would feed his imagination for the rest of his working life. Artists talk about their formative travel. Very few earned it that hard. Then he went further. From 1994 to 1995, he lived in Prague. The timing is worth understanding because Prague in that window was one of the great moments in European cultural history. The wall had come down in 1989, the Soviet Union dissolved in 1991, Czechoslovakia split in 1993. The city was reinventing itself in real time. Rents were negligible. The architecture had survived the century intact. Writers, painters, and expatriates were arriving from everywhere, and there was a widespread sense among the people who were there that something was happening. Sam painted through it. The work from that period became his Women in Prague series, figurative paintings of female subjects he encountered, and the beginning of the reputation he still carries for figure work with genuine emotional weight. There is also something worth noting about the choice of Prague specifically, rather than the obvious destinations. A young American painter in 1994 with credentials and ambition would ordinarily go to New York or to Paris, or stay in the Bay Area and work the scene he already knew. Prague was none of those. It was a city with no established market for a foreign artist, in a language he did not speak, in a country that had existed under that name for barely a year, which is exactly the pattern of the Central American trip. Twice in 3 years, Sam chose the harder and less legible option, and both times the work that came out of it defined the next stage of his career. His influences, as he lists them himself, are not modest. Picasso for absolute devotion to craft, Max Ernst for surrealism, Hieronymus Bosch for hypnotic detail, Andy Warhol for portraiture, color, and cultural reach. That is a serious set of names to put your own work next to. An artist citing Bosch and Ernst is announcing that he intends to operate inside the Western fine art tradition rather than decorate a hotel corridor. Whether any given viewer thinks he succeeds is a separate question. The ambition is unmistakable. It is fair to ask how much of that list is aspiration and how much shows up on the canvas. Artists cite influences the way musicians cite records, and the citation is partly a statement of intent. But the four he picked hang together coherently, which is the tell. Bosch and Ernst share a preoccupation with the disturbing image assembled from ordinary parts. Picasso and Warhol both spent careers reorganizing how a human face could be represented. An artist working in figurative portraiture with buried narrative layers is drawing on precisely that inheritance. The list is not decoration. It is a working map of where he thinks his own paintings sit, now the technique he is actually known for. Around 2009 or 2010, Sam founded a series called Backstory UnderPainting. The first work was titled The Great Collapse, subtitled Lady Liberty Falls to Her Knees, and then again as The Economy. 40 by 30 inches, oil on canvas, made in response to the financial crisis, listed at $2,000. The concept behind the series is the interesting part. Every painting in Backstory UnderPainting has another painting underneath it. Sam paints a narrative first, a story, a personal history, an image, and then paints the visible work on top of it. He is not the first painter to work in layers. Every oil painting has something underneath, because that is how oil painting functions. What distinguishes the series is that the buried layer is a complete image with its own subject, made to be covered. The buried layer is genuinely there. It affects the texture, the way the surface sits, the small irregularities the top layer inherits. But nobody looking at the finished canvas can see what it was. Consider what that means coming from this particular artist. Sam Roloff has spent his entire life being read on sight. Every stranger who has ever looked at him has drawn conclusions from a surface, without any access to the history underneath it. So he built a body of work in which the visible image is always sitting on a story the viewer will never get to. The thing you cannot see is shaping everything you can. That is not decoration. That is a man making an argument about his own life in the only language he has full command of. The current catalog at samroloff.com covers considerable ground. Oils, mixed media with gold leaf, portraits, various series running through different techniques. Prices give a fair sense of where he sits professionally. Smaller mixed media pieces run around $1,000. Johanna Jezebel, done with gold leaf, has been listed near $1,050. Sharka, Prague cabaret dancer, sits in similar territory. Larger oils reach $3,500, which is roughly where A Magical Summer in Occidental was priced, a 30 by 24 canvas from 2021. That is the pricing of a working mid-career artist with an established regional reputation. not a household name commanding auction prices, also not a hobbyist selling at craft fairs, a professional whose work sells at professional rates. Those numbers also say something about how he has managed a career. Selling a $3,000 canvas requires finding one person willing to spend $3,000 on a painting, which is a fundamentally different business from selling 10,000 copies of anything. There is no scale in it. Every sale is individual. A working painter is running a small enterprise with a customer base measured in dozens, dependent on galleries, on word of mouth, and on the slow accumulation of people who have decided they like what you do. Sam has been doing that since the early 90s without a television show driving traffic to him. That is 30 years of the unglamorous version. He has also sustained something unusual in the fine art world, which is a genuine long-term collaboration. Sam met the Bay Area painter Sean Weber at the San Francisco Art Institute in 1992. Around 2015 or 2016, the two of them began making paintings together. The method is straightforward and slightly mad. They ship canvases up and down the West Coast to each other. One adds imagery and layers, sends it on, the other responds, sends it back. The results blend realism, surrealism, pop, and graffiti traditions. Painters are territorial about their surfaces in a way outsiders underestimate. A canvas represents weeks of decisions, and every mark is a commitment that closes off other options. Handing a finished passage to somebody else and accepting whatever comes back requires a level of trust that most artists cannot manage. These two have been doing it for a decade, on a friendship that started in 1992. Sam has stayed connected to the family without joining the enterprise. He has turned up on Little People Big World occasionally. Matt has mentioned him on Instagram. He was at their father Ron's 80th birthday in 2018 and at various other gatherings over the years, present in the family without being a character in its public story. What he has never done is take the obvious opportunity. There was a period when TLC would have given real airtime to Matt's artist brother. The studio visits, the gallery openings, the pieces about two brothers with the same condition and different lives. It would have sold paintings. He did not take it. It is worth being precise about why that opportunity was real rather than hypothetical. The show spent years looking for storylines. It followed farm construction, family arguments, holidays, and the ordinary business of a household. An artist brother with a studio, a gallery, and a visible body of work is exactly the kind of material a production department dreams about. There would have been an episode in it, probably several, and the effect on sales would have been immediate, because television moves inventory in a way that regional press does not. Sam had a professional reason to say yes, and said no anyway. He has 3 children. They do not appear publicly in any meaningful way. His artist statement puts him in the North Bay above San Francisco. Other sources have placed him in Portland. He has moved around, exhibited in both cities, and generally declined to be locatable. That privacy is a deliberate contrast with his brother, and it is a legitimate choice rather than a criticism of Matt. 2 men made opposite decisions about how much of their family life to sell, and both decisions are defensible. He has not disappeared entirely. Portland Interview magazine profiled him in 2015, which is exactly the kind of regional coverage a mid-career artist needs to reach collectors and curators. He has exhibited in a group show benefiting Disability Rights Oregon, which puts his advocacy in the same place as his work, rather than in a separate compartment. That is worth setting alongside the rest of the family. Matt has worked the advocacy side through Little People of America, and later through the Coalition for Dwarf Advocacy. Amy ran her own charity foundation for 11 years. Sam does his through exhibitions. Same instinct, 3 completely different instruments. Joshua belongs in this account too, and he is the sibling nobody discusses. The 3rd Roloff son was born with a severe heart malformation and died in 1999 at 34. Matt wrote about him in a book published that same year, which means Joshua was alive on the page and gone by the time strangers were reading it. Sam lost a brother at that age as well. 2 brothers on crutches and a 3rd with a failing heart is a childhood spent around hospitals in more ways than one, and it puts a particular edge on what both survivors did with their 40s and 50s. Neither of them slowed down. Matt built, Sam painted. Set the 2 brothers side by side and the divergence is remarkable. Identical starting conditions. Same parents, same house, same city, same rare condition, same crutches, Same experience of being looked at. Matt went into technology, then land, then television, and ended up a household name across the country. Sam went into painting and became a respected regional artist that most of Matt's audience has never heard of. Neither route is the correct one. They are simply different answers to the same question, which is what a person does with a life that is going to be observed whether he likes it or not. Matt's answer was to control the observation and monetize it. Sam's answer was to redirect it, to make objects that people look at instead of looking at him. Both work. Both have produced 30+ years of real output. Both men appear to be content. There is one more difference worth drawing out, and it concerns what each man leaves behind. Matt has built structures: a castle, a western town, a treehouse, a log cabin, a farm that hundreds of thousands of people have walked across. Physical things, fixed to one piece of ground in Oregon, which will pass to whoever eventually buys the property. Sam has made objects that travel. A painting sold in 2003 is hanging in somebody's house right now. It has been moved, inherited, resold, possibly forgotten by everyone except the person looking at it over their breakfast. One brother's legacy is anchored to a deed. The other's is scattered across an unknown number of walls, and neither of them can account for where all of it went. If you want to see the paintings, they are not hard to find. The gallery is online, the prices are listed, and anybody can browse it for as long as they like without buying anything. Go and look at the Prague work in particular, then remember that it was made by a man in his early 30s who had hitchhiked across Central America to get there, and who would spend the next 30 years painting stories underneath stories. He learned to dance with a brush. 3 decades in, he is very good at it. And the sentence itself deserves one last look, because it is not self-pity and it is not consolation either. He does not say he wishes he could dance. He does not say painting was second best or that he made do. He says he learned to dance. Same verb, same claim, different instrument. The thing he wanted was available to him. He simply had to find another route to it. That is a considerably tougher and better position than most people arrive at, and he got there while making a living out of it. Have you ever seen Sam Roloff's paintings? Should TLC have made room for his career on the show, or was staying out of it the smarter move? And does the idea of a hidden painting under every finished one change how you would look at one of his canvases?